Let's just get into it. Let's wipe the egg off the face and just address it. The Jets blow. Jets blow. Big news coming out a couple of days ago now that they've fired Robert Salah after a 20-36 record in a few seasons with the Jets. So much to unpack here. I think we want to take a different approach than a lot of the usual shows are doing with talking points of whatever, but it's probably going to be a lot of overlap because there's a lot of conversations that I think people are all kind of seeing the same thing and thinking the same thing. But just off rip, what is your impression of the firing and where are you on this team right now?
Yeah. Pure disappointment. Kind of where I'm at with a majority of the teams in the league, honestly. It's just pure disappointment. Yeah. I know ball. I in the end of the day, I know ball. I know what I'm seeing when I look at this roster head to toe, and I see some real dogs. You know what I mean? I mean, you're talking Sauce Gardner, All Pro. You're talking Aaron Rodgers, top 10 quarterback of all time. That be it, he's 40 now, but still, I mean, we've seen guys like Brady now push this limit so beyond even the age of 40 that it's becoming a bit of the norm. Breece Hall, we saw him be electric last year. Garrett Wilson, we know what he can be when he's locked in. Even guys like Mike Williams and Lazard. Lazard looks like he can't catch a football, but we've watched him for a decade catch footballs. The O line, everybody. I mean, I can go one by one, but let's just be honest. Quinnen Williams, another huge piece. Why are we not gelling? Why are we not? What is it that we, week one? Okay, you know what? You got to go to the Bay. You got to go play San Francisco. They're coming off a Super Bowl appearance. I get it, right? I don't think anybody expected them to go in there and punch San Francisco in the face, especially after the whole the Egypt trip and the OTAs and yada yada yada, whatever. Okay, fine. They weren't locked in week one, but then they weren't locked in week two, and then they were kind of locked in week three, and then they weren't locked in week four, and then against a flaming hot 4-0 undefeated Vikings team, you're in London. Sam Darnold starts looking like Sam Darnold again. Aaron totally winnable game. And you just shit the bed. I don't know. I mean, at what point do we stop
now
with the excuses, right? You thought, I think you and I thought that after New England is when it clicked. New England is when it clicked. And it was okay, this is the team that I expect to see kind of moving forward and getting better, right? You saw a lot of Breece Hall action. You saw Aaron do Aaron things. You saw Garrett Wilson get involved to some degree, not as much as he did last weekend, ironically, but still, you saw moments where you're okay, if this train can keep going, this is a really good team. And it's one step forward, two steps back. The Taylor's oldest time with the Jets. It's I don't know, man. It's so pathetically frustrating. And then they top all this off. All this frustration is topped off by firing the wrong guy. I'm not saying Robert Salah was the right choice or the right CEO coach of this team, but he objectively has his side of the ball playing very well. So why is it when you have Breece Hall, you have Garrett Wilson, you have Mike Williams, you have Aaron Lazard, you have a very good O-line.
Yeah, better. I mean,
and you have
paper,
Aaron freaking Rodgers.
Yep.
Sure, but you have all those guys who we know objectively are talented. Why are you not looking at the offensive coordinator and putting a bullet through his head? That's what I want to know. That's the question I want to know. Why are we going to Robert Salah and saying, it's your fault at this point, when their offense is the second worst in the league currently, third worst in the league? I mean, they're not good. It's pathetic. Yeah. There is no offense. There's no system.
I mean, I think no. I mean, it's
I don't
spot
know.
on.
That's where I'm at with it.
The major issue here is it's impossible to sort all of this out because you're getting into this territory now where you've got Salah defenders, and you can't go 20-36 in the NFL. It's nobody's allowed to keep their job when they continuously lose. But there is a feeling, I think, that you touched on pretty acutely, that like it doesn't feel like the issue is just like they have the wrong head coach. It's part of it, but again, I don't understand exactly where this team is supposed to go from here. They didn't really change anything that fundamentally with like this coaching staff, other than like firing the head dog. And I think, where I will give credit to ownership, and they deserve very little based on like what Woody Johnson has been as an owner for 2 decades. Fundamentally, I mean, they haven't hosted a playoff game since 2003. Like, this team sucks, and they've sucked every year. And this is an ownership conversation, and I think this will drift into that a little bit. But starting with the Salah thing, you're right about the side of the ball, but when you're a head coach, you're not allowed to have just one side of the ball. You're supposed to be winning games, and it's like,
No, that's
look,
facts.
man, it is what it is.
That's facts.
I think he's going to land on his feet. I mean, Aaron did that whole like song and dance on McAfee of being like, there's a human element here. Like, his family's hurting. It's like, he's going to land on his feet. He's a good DC. I fundamentally believe that. I've seen him make this defense a force, but it does fall on you as a head coach when like this many things are going wrong offensively as well, where it's like, it's been 3 years in a row of just like derelict offense. And, Breece Hall has under 200 yards rushing through 5 games. That's nuts. Aaron Rodgers threw 3 picks last week. Garrett Wilson had a good game, but he was targeted 22 times and only caught 13 of them. Like, this offense is so awful again. And I think that I'm with you. My belief is that if this, Woody Johnson came out and said, I've been mulling this over for 2 years. He should have been fired, similar to Eberflus. It was time to turn the page on this whole coaching staff after the end of last season. I'm sorry, you weren't given a fair shake. We drafted the wrong quarterback. We drafted the wrong left tackle. Good luck. And I want to pass it over to you because I have some theories and some tie-ins and some comparisons with the Aaron stuff here in this dynamic. The internet has obviously very much made up their minds that Aaron made the call. Hackett was going to be fired by Salah, rightfully so. Aaron stepped in, got Salah fired. Do you believe this? Do you not believe this? Where are you on that? Objectively, like, it seems a little far-fetched, but there's also a very real possibility that it isn't. Where do you stand on it?
I don't want to say which way or the other, like it definitely happened or like it definitely didn't happen. I think there's very much a world where Aaron at least alluded to it. I think that's kind of where I personally fall. Like, I think Aaron, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? And it's like, okay, Aaron, we do know that Woody Johnson called Aaron in the middle of the night last night or 2 nights ago, whenever it was, he was fired. We know there was a conversation. They've both come out and said, oh, no, we didn't talk about Robert Salah, but they both kind of very conveniently said his name wasn't brought up.
Obviously.
Which, it's impossible, but it reads to me like 2 guys who have been in this business long enough to where they can like confidently say, no, his name wasn't even brought up. But it's like, it's one of those things where I think maybe Aaron got to talking about culture and leadership and in Green Bay, we kind of used to do it like this, and there's certain entities here who just don't really want to do it that way, and they do different styles, and I don't know if I necessarily agree with the style of the culture. I come from Green Bay. It's a great, it's one of the best cultures. I know what good cultures look like, and like this just isn't it. If you had somebody at the top who, was bringing a different culture, different attitude, different, it's an offensive league. Maybe offensive guys is the way we need to go. Something along the lines of that, where he's alluding to, hey, your coach isn't right, but you didn't actually say, hey, Robert Salah is not working here and I want him gone. I know humans, you know what I mean? Like, if you call me and you're the owner of the Jets and I'm your franchise quarterback, and we just lost a game that was completely winnable, and we pissed it away. I feel like it's crazy to think that like the
Of
coach
course.
wouldn't
I
come
mean, there's
up in
no
that
doubt about it.
conversation.
That's a lie.
You know what I
that's
mean?
definitely a lie.
It's like-
and I'm with you. I mean, I think a lot of people have
Yeah.
that similar thing where it's like, when people start lying and you know they're lying, it's like, okay, well, if you're lying about this, are you lying about that? You know, I wanted to bring
100%.
something up because this whole situation is like interesting watching this unfold in a similar context, but a different situation with a different team. And like the results are very different, right? First of all, I think if ownership is competent, let's just go with the theory that Aaron got this guy fired and is protecting Nat Hackett. I don't believe that Aaron has done anything within the Jets as a player, as a New York Jet, to warrant any say or sway in what happens in the coaching room and what happens with the offense and what happens at an ownership level. Sorry. Like, I understand that everyone has this idea that,
Yeah.
like, oh, Aaron made the call, which is very possible because I do believe this ownership group is a bit inept. But that is a really bad sign because, again, we've just seen a similar situation play out. And watching all this unfold, a name kept coming up in my head of, like, this reminds me of Russell Wilson in Denver, where he came in, right?
Yeah.
And not the way it's playing out, but kind of the results, right? He came in a couple of years ago off of the Seattle run. It was really rare that like a team like Seattle moves off a quarterback that good in a moment like that. It was kind of odd. And same thing with Green Bay. It was like, why are we moving off of Aaron? He just won 2 MVPs. Like, it was very bizarre, right? Same sort of thing. Both guys have this baggage that's like everyone's aware of now. Different styles of baggage, but same kind of thing where it's like these guys are both a little head casey. But he comes into Denver, ironically, with Nat Hackett as the head coach. You know, more on that common ground later, right? And stinks it up. His first year in Denver was horrible. He was horrible. He was a dumpster fire. Season ends. You know, the Walton family, Walmart guys come in, buy the team for an astronomical amount of money, overpay Sean Payton to come out of retirement and coach the team. And we saw all these stories about how Payton came in and was like, you know, no more corner office for Russ, no more parking spot for. I think a lot of that stuff was overblown, but it was very clear that Payton was like, I didn't pay you the money. I didn't bring you here. You're not my guy. And I haven't seen you be good in 2 years. So earn your job. I don't care what this last ownership group paid you to come here.
Yeah.
I didn't, and neither did these guys. And he got backing by the ownership, right? He played a decent season last year, Russ, right? Okay, he was better, but not enough ultimately, I think, to save his job. He clearly didn't get along with Sean Payton. All of that, you know, is history, right? They launched him out of a cannon. Like, very quickly, it was made apparent that, like, what Russell Wilson had done in Seattle, very similar to Aaron Rodgers. Dynamic, fun player, won Super Bowl, right? Kind of a lot of through lines with these two guys. Obviously, Aaron's ranks higher, all-time greater quarterback, no doubt. But let's not act like 5 years ago Russ wasn't the dude. Top 5, right? Same thing with Aaron.
Yeah.
The difference is I feel like Denver, ironically, whether or not you want to call Sean Payton an arrogant prick, which he probably is, I think we have enough evidence to assume he's got a pretty big ego, potentially a pill problem in the past, right? A lot of different things with that guy. Not going to get into hearsay, but there's, you know, where there's smoke, there's fire on that guy. Felt very comfortable shit-talking Nat Hackett, which I think says a lot. Coaching is a brotherhood, and I think when other coaches feel comfortable shit-talking you, that means that you're not really in the club. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a very clear, obvious thing with this guy being a fraud. But Denver did it their way, right? And Denver looks good this year. Denver is not great, but Denver is rebuilding. They're doing it Sean Payton's way. They made a decision, right? They paid a quarterback a bunch of money, a guy who had done a bunch of shit, a team that had been bad for years in Denver that didn't have a quarterback. They pivoted. And my issue with this and with the Aaron stuff and with all of this is, very quickly as an NFL community and from Denver's perspective, from a fan base perspective, and from an ownership top-down perspective, we were kind of out on Russ, and we still are. Like, we've all moved on from Russ. We're all out on it despite what he's done. And with Aaron, there's this thing where I feel like he's still living off of what happened a few years ago and his career and this legacy and this idea. last year he didn't play, and this year he's just not been good. Like, he hasn't been horrible. He's played a couple of good games. He's played a good half here and there, a good drive here and there. We've seen flashes. But I'm wondering, like, do you think that with this coaching change, it's enough to get this team back into a position where this offense is good enough? And how much of this is an Aaron problem? And also, like, where do you stand on this parallel? Because it is really interesting to see two similar situations play out so differently. And one franchise and one team and one coach and one ownership group just goes, yeah, you're not that good anymore. Sorry. Like, all this weird stuff, the Mr. Unlimited and the weird Sierra life and all this, like, yapping you do. It's weird, bro. See ya. We're going to go ahead and draft a guy. You're good.
Yeah.
And this other organization,
Yeah.
we as a fan base feel like the quarterback has the power to make a phone call to get the head coach fired. Whether it's true or not, perception is reality in a lot of these situations. You know that as well as I do with media, NFL, all that stuff. So it's really interesting to me
Sure.
to see these two parallels play out so differently, because if you look at it objectively, I mean, Aaron hasn't done more for the Jets than Russ did with the Broncos. He hasn't been better than Russ was with the Broncos. But one guy, it's over.
No.
We don't even want to hear from him again. Justin Fields stinks, and we don't even want to see Russell Wilson take the field. And this other guy, we're still, and I'm guilty of this.
Yep.
You are. We both are. We all are. We're still in this world of, like, I don't know, man. It's Aaron Rodgers. Like, maybe. You know, and I just, where are you on Aaron today, and where are you on Aaron moving forward post-firing? And do you believe that this thing can, number one, and number two, will turn around now that Salah's out of the building?
I don't see how it can turn around when the problem is still
Aaron
in
or
the
Hackett?
building. They're
Yeah.
It's Hackett. I mean, look what I mean, we just talked about it, right? Who's the common denominator between the Russell Wilson led Broncos and the shitty start for the Jets?
Yeah.
There's no offense here. How can Russell Wilson be Russell Wilson when and this is before I even go off on the tangent, let me just preface my hypothesis with when it comes to Nat Hackett. I think Nat Hackett is a patsy. I think he's somebody who buddies with the quarterback and goes, rather than me building a system, I want us to build a system together. And it gives a little more power to a quarterback that they're maybe not necessarily used to.
Well, and I'm going to
And my
interrupt you
theory
real
in
quick
this is because, like,
this is matter for context.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. And if you think about where Aaron came
Yeah.
from, very similar to Brett, very similar career trajectories, no ownership in Green Bay, and a very corporate front office, a
Yep.
very corporate team, fan
Yes.
base, small town mentality where, look, at the end, I mean, it was very much was that thing of, we all know Aaron has an insanely huge ego, similar to Russ, right? They're very ego guys. And it was very much like,
Yep.
I've done
Yep.
this,
Yep.
I'm that guy. And they said, I'm sorry, dude, but, like, you've gotten weird. And we have our coach, and we got a guy who's
Yeah.
been learning behind you. We think he's pretty good. I don't know. We'll see. But
Yeah.
thanks, but don't let the door hit you on the way out. Like, he was not able to have control in Green Bay.
But that's the thing, right? Is like when he lost control, who did we do. This does get like very lost in all of the drama that's happened over the last 3 years, but Nat Hackett only got that job because Aaron was supposed
Yes.
to go to Denver.
Yes.
So Aaron, no, you know what I mean? And Aaron, so if we look at it from like a human nature standpoint, right? Aaron completely fucked over Nat Hackett's career, right? He put him in a situation, said, Nat Hackett took that job under the guise that Aaron Rodgers was going to come to Denver. Aaron then stays in Green Bay, doesn't go to Denver. So now you have Nat Hackett, who's out here kind of on like
He's flailing
he's just,
because
like, on a
he
plank
knows
by
he can't do
himself.
this job.
They make the big trade. He needs Aaron. He needs Aaron. But really, but the thing that Aaron hasn't accepted yet is that Aaron
Yes.
needs Matt LaFleur.
Yes.
He doesn't need Nat Hackett. So Aaron thinks, okay, we can take this system that we've been running. I'm coming off of 3 MVPs or 2 MVP, whatever it was, and a couple of 13 win seasons, and we know how to take Matt's system and we can move it over to Denver for sure. There's all this drama, there's all this last dance stuff. Aaron resigns, gets the bag from Green Bay. Nat Hackett ends up in Denver. Russell Wilson comes over. So now what does Nat Hackett have to do? Nat Hackett has to be like, all right, you and me are going to build a system now, right? And Russell's like, yes, thank you. Somebody's finally taking me seriously, because for so many years, Pete Carroll wanted to run his own fucking system. He doesn't want to run my system. He doesn't want to listen to me.
Yeah,
but I'm the one who won the Super Bowl. Let Russ cook. Let Russ cook. That was the whole notion. That was the social media.
Well, and the defensive players didn't
Let
like
Russ
him,
cook.
and the defense was the star of that show. And we all know now in hindsight very clearly the reason they won that Super Bowl, not Russ. No offense. Yeah, and there's that chip on your shoulder.
Of course.
Yeah.
But now you have exactly. So now you have Russell Wilson come over. Nat Hackett's like, bet I need you to bail me out because I'm in over my head here. So let's build an offense together, right? It doesn't work because Russell Wilson can't build an offense by himself. Nat Hackett sure as hell can't build an offense by himself. Then it blows up in their face, right? So now Nat Hackett goes to the Jets and is basically hired for the same reason, right? Like, oh, I can get Aaron in the door here. Like, we can. You guys want to move off of Zach Wilson because I can get Aaron to come here. And they're like, yeah, all right, fine. We'll put you on staff. Get Aaron here. Aaron comes there. Everything's hunky dory. Aaron tears his Achilles 4 minutes into the first game. The offense is terrible,
31st
right?
in the league last year, right?
I think there's I think there's a human element with Aaron as well, thinking, okay, I kind of like screwed this guy over not going to Denver. He's now like become a laughingstock. He was maybe the worst head coach of all time. And he's never going to get another opportunity like that again. So the least I could do for the guy is keep him around New York, because that's my boy, right? That's my guy. And he put it, he's stuck up for me for years. I got to give him that same respect, right? But the problem is that he's not a NFL coach.
It's obvious.
He's not an NFL coach.
We had McCole Hardman come out
so
last year and
obvious.
say, I went to the Jets and there's no system.
There's no
like,
offense.
Him and Aaron are like making up a system on the fly, which to us sounds fun. It's like, oh yeah, like you and I like we're just fans, right? But then
that's not.
Then you have Garrett Wilson last year.
That's not congruent, man. You got to
come out ahead of the game and go.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not running a real route tree. Like I'm not running actual like concepts or routes. There's no like identity to our offense, and then you see them have this running back who, objectively, from a talent perspective, right now in the league, top 5. Like, there's no question in terms of, pass catching ability, running ability, athleticism, all of it. He's a top 5 running back in terms of just in a vacuum, right? Less than 200 yards. Can't run the football back-to-back weeks. He's averaging 1 yard per carry. And you look at it and you go, that doesn't seem possible. They draft Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin. Perfect guy to complement Breece Hall, right? You got that thunder and lightning thing going on. Physical, strong guy. He showed a lot of promise already. Why is he not being utilized? If you're not able to run, like all of these things, there's no offense. And we saw it against, ironically, Denver in that week 4 game where it's like, what are we doing?
But that's the thing. Why are you throwing the ball 52 times in a monsoon,
and I
brother?
think what's unfortunate,
run the ball 200 times. Right. They're gonna break one off at some point. You know what I mean? If you want to 3 and out it the whole game, you might as well just do it this way rather than throwing it in a monsoon. It's a monsoon.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a monsoon. What are we doing?
Two very capable.
You don't
backs.
throw the ball in a monsoon.
I think Braylon Allen could start on a handful of teams right now as a rookie. Like Dallas comes to mind. I mean, I think there's teams in the league that should have drafted him. But again, it's another year. And I mean, there's the fan in me. I'm not a Jets fan per se, but I'm a fan of the Jets. I lived in New York for a long time. I made no secret that I was pretty high on them. Not Super Bowl high, but like, okay, this is the year. And we're seeing By the way,
Yeah,
we're seeing
winning the division
clown
high,
car
yeah.
that is the New England Patriots right now. This just came out recently. There's a mutiny apparently in the locker room going on. We saw this coming a mile away. You're not Bill Belichick.
Yep.
Let it die. Let the Belichick coaching tree fucking die. That's number one. Number two, another guy that we've talked about as maybe the reverse of Robert Saleh, where I actually think you do get your side of the ball, but maybe you aren't a head coach, Mike McDaniel. That team's completely fallen apart without Tua Tagovailoa. And if we're being all the way honest, we touched on it last week, they looked like dog shit with Tua. That's over. We were right about that. Now, they look worse than we thought they would. But nonetheless, you had them as missing the playoffs. I had them as a coin flip to be the 7th seed. We're both looking pretty good in the light on that take of this team regressing, right? Buffalo came out of the gates looking really good. The last 2 weeks, Buffalo's looked horrible. It's very, very clear that this group, Keon Coleman's still working on it. I think second half of the season, he could be a really good player, but he's still getting there. Shakir's been banged up. Kincaid's maybe not the tight end we thought he was. James Cook is solid, but he's solid. This offense, we were right about it. This AFC East is gettable, and it's another year. It's another year.
It's gettable fully.
If I'm a Jets fan, I'm going to One World Trade Center. I'm going to the Freedom Tower, and I'm looking out on the edge, and I'm going, one more year of this, and I'm doing it. My wife left me. The kids don't want to talk to me. I lost my job. I'm doing gigs here. I'm doing DoorDash and Uber Eats. This was the year. I bought season tickets with my retirement money, right? It's like, that's the kind of, these are, and Aaron says, like, there's a human element to it. This is what we said in our last video about the product. There's a fan, there's a consumer, there's a money element to this of going, God, how many more years can we show up and support this fucking team? And for me, I'm with you. I think the pieces are there this year, and it's another wasted season. And it's I don't believe that Saleh and the firing of Saleh is going to solve this team's problems. But again, I'll leave you with this question. It's like, doesn't it feel like watching the Bills, watching the Patriots, watching the Dolphins, isn't the door cracked still just a little bit with this team? It's like, I don't know, maybe when they play on Monday night against Buffalo. We're obviously, you and I are going to be tuned in for that, and I think a lot of people are, but I wonder if I still don't. I don't know. So far, the answer is absolutely not. Way worse than I feared. But is there a chance that in the second half this can gel? I don't know. But I'm with you. They had to bring in. They had to bring a real
100% it could gel.
A real offensive head coach ahead of this season.
Woody Johnson's got to take
Old
Nat
Yeller
Hackett
style.
behind the shed and put a bullet in him. That's what he has to do. If you were gonna fire Robert Saleh, you had to
100%.
fire Nat Hackett at the same time. That was the only thing that was going to save this season. But the problem is, you still have the cancer in the building. You removed the wrong tumor. You removed the one that was benign. You removed the one without the cancer in it. It doesn't make any sense to me. You take the shitty coach and you walk him outside and you put a bullet in his head. Nat Hackett is the worst offensive coordinator / former head coach the league has ever seen. It's not close. It's him and Freddie Kitchens.
Hugh Jackson, honorable mention.
That you look at and you go, they're never meant to be head coaches. We could see it from a mile away, and you could see it now, and it just makes no sense to me. Stop letting this 40-year-old quarterback who hasn't done dick since 2010 as far as winning and leading a team to a Super Bowl have say over your franchise. Your franchise is pathetic. Don't let this guy come in and take over like he's the God's gift to earth. You know why you let Brady do that if you're the Bucks? Because he's coming off of a Super Bowl 2 years prior. He's coming off of being in a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and even then, I mean, don't we
he's
feel
the greatest player of all time.
Now, that first year, him and Brady and Arians were clashing. There was my way.
Fully, but Arians is a real coach. Arians is a real coach. That's the difference.
It wasn't until after they won the ring that they sent Arians' ass up to the press box and said, "I'm going to want you." We all knew what it was, right? We all knew what it was.
Yep.
How'd that work
Yep.
out?
And how'd
Never
that
got
work
back,
out?
did
And
you?
how'd that work
You
out?
never got back. And that was the thing. And then Tom faded away.
No,
and it's
hell
like,
no.
all right, we're done now. And the thing is like,
Yep.
it's a really, really, really interesting testament to this idea. You know, it's the LeBron, David Blatt of it all, where it's like, okay, you got lucky, it worked out that 1 year with Ty Lue, but that
100%.
again, people have this idea in their heads because of the 73-9 Warriors that 2016 Cleveland was this underdog thing because of the 3-1. They were the heavy favorites going into that year. They were the best
No,
roster in the
they were
NBA,
cold.
bar none.
Yeah.
It wasn't close.
No, they were cold.
And they won
Bar
one.
none.
And then with the
Well,
Aaron
I think
stuff,
I think the difference is,
you know, you
the difference
real
is
quick,
there.
like you touched on it eloquently. You know, the Super Bowl stuff
Yeah.
in 2010, that's one thing, right? But like, we haven't seen this guy. I think the really important element of it is, as a Jet, as a New Yorker, for this fan base, for these season ticket holders, for, you know, Gang Green, this guy has done nothing. So it's not even about what he's
Sure.
done as a player. I mean, he won 2 MVPs.
He's done nothing.
What, 4 seasons? I mean, it's not that long ago. But again, you have no pull within this organization. It's why I brought up, I think people are probably watching this going, what the fuck is he talking about? Russell Wilson. The parallel is there, but one situation was handled a certain way, and the other situation, we're all thinking here, did this guy get his coach fired? Like, what business do you have making that call and keeping off a game where you threw 3 picks? That game was winnable in London, and the Denver game was winnable. And it's like,
completely winnable.
at what point
but that's the thing, bro. It's
how
like,
does this
what-
ownership group look at this and go, we're leaving the offensive situation as is? I don't understand it, because you're right. I mean, Salah, for his flaws, he did have the defensive side right. So what are we doing here? Like, I'm with you. I don't know. Something's got to give, man, and they're going to have to figure this thing out. And I think that the snake oil from Aaron is wearing thin on me, dude. At some point, you got to do something. I've backed him so.
It is.
Listen, you and I we're, because of our age, we're that age. He
Because
was
he's
the
a
guy
talent,
in
bro.
our era of being like, he's the best. And Brady was there, and it was him.
But
years ago.
bro, I mean, at a certain point, fuck, we
Nothing.
Aaron Rodgers has done nothing
Right.
to a 14-year-old.
Right.
A 14-year-old child. A 14-year-old child, he has done nothing in their lifetime. In their entire lifetime, he has won 0 Super Bowls. A 14-year-old. We were in 10th grade when Aaron won his first Super Bowl. We are 31 now. We were in Obama's first term when Aaron won his first and only Super Bowl.
Sure. And it was pre-pandemic when he won the MVP, right? It's like, you know, I mean, Right.
But I don't give a fuck about MVPs. You came to the Jets to win. They had a Super Bowl level defense. You were brought here to put this team over the top and go win a Super Bowl. You were here. Patrick Mahomes has lapped you twice.
Yep.
Lapped you twice. He's been in the league since 2017.
I think the arrogance,
What are
and
we
the
doing?
smugness from him, it's just gotten to a point now where it's like, I'm sorry, dude. You gotta start doing something. And again, this team's 2-3, but it's really important to understand that with each and every passing week. By the way, side note, unrelated, we told you the Saints weren't actually good. More on that in a different video. But with each and every passing week, you know, we go from week 1 to week 2 to week 3, and New England wins week 1, right? They beat the Bengals, and we go, okay, well, Bengals are 1-4 now, and New England hasn't won a game since. And we go, okay, maybe the Patriots are really bad. Spoiler alert, they are. The Tennessee Titans might be the worst team in football. So it's, for me, again, I'm not, a win's a win in the NFL. And you and I know that, watching this game for years, it's any given
100%.
Sunday, legitimately, right? But it does change things a bit. In my mind, and maybe not to everybody, but certainly for me, that the 2 games we're holding on to are a really good home game against New England when the Patriots offense had 90 yards of total, like they just completely fell apart. Ramondre fumbled twice and they couldn't get anything going. You kind of steamrolled that game and it looked good. And the other win was a frankly down to the wire game in Tennessee against what now looks to be arguably the worst team in football, in a game where Will Levis had 2 of the worst turnovers I've ever seen. And so it's like, I don't know. You guys should be 4-1. Like you said, the San Francisco game, all is fair. But like the rest of these four, doesn't it kind of feel like they've just left all of the meat on the bone, not some, offensively? I mean, it's just I don't know, man. I don't know how they're gonna turn this thing around, but it doesn't feel in my gut like firing Salah is that thing. And maybe it is. Maybe it is. And I'm not saying he deserves to keep his job either. You can't lose every week.
It was a bad decision, bro. Nah, that should be a bad decision, bro.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah, I guess for me, I'd leave it at this. I think we've seen this a lot where interim coaches sometimes tend to bring a different energy, and it has been Salah for a few years now. And again, so much of this, why did the Aaron aura happen the last year before the Achilles ahead of it, right? You know, when Sauce gave him the chain, he came out at training camp and there was a standing ovation. He had never played a snap in a Jet uniform. That was all because of this idea. Ideas are incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And with interim coaches, a lot of times you tend to get this newfound buy-in. So look out. Maybe they can fix this thing enough to like salvage this season and become a fringe playoff team. I hope. And the problem with having Salah in the building, and I've said this, and you've said this, and you know we'll do a video on this team I think pretty shortly. But the problem with Eberflus behind the helm in Chicago is this is a new team with a rookie quarterback and new pieces. He has no cachet, and he's never won anything. He's the losing head coach coming in, and everyone's kind of going, "Well, why are we following you? You suck," right? And with Salah, that is part of the problem, I think, with this team, is like Salah has done mostly nothing but lose since getting to the Jets. So there is that element of maybe now this team is going to start to believe again and go, okay, maybe we can win because the guy who's done nothing but lose is gone. But what I will say, and I know we touched on it already, so I don't want to beat it too much and just talk in circles, but with each and every week that Aaron Rodgers looks like this, that legend and that mystique dies in that locker room a little bit more and more and more and more. And you better hope and pray. Hope and pray. Because that defense is going to be up now. After this, these guys are going to start playing. Because it's a new coach. They're going to try to win back the juice. Aaron's got to start delivering like yesterday. And if he looks like shit in Buffalo, I think it's in Buffalo. I had to double check. But if he looks like shit this weekend in Buffalo on Monday night, and they lose this game and Josh Allen looks like Josh Allen because he hasn't the last couple weeks, I don't know, man. This could get like really ugly, like worse than last season ugly. And I just... Aaron's got to put up or shut up, man. Can't have 3 picks in a must-win game. So Salah's out of the building. You've done a lot of talking for a few years. A lot of ivory tower, a lot of old wise man meditating on a rock, looking down at the rest of us. It's time to start playing like it. So that's all. Man, that's the Jets. Dumpster fire. I'll see you on the next one, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.
Peace.